Hey everyone, this is Greg with DeckDadBBQ, and today I'm making pepper jack pulled beef sandwiches. Starting out with these beautiful chuck roasts here, and we're going to walk through the whole recipe from getting the pit going all the way through seasoning these bad boys, getting them on there, braising them in a couple hours with some local beer and onions, and then making some Texas toast and putting that all together with that pepper jack to make some delicious sandwiches. So hope you enjoy this recipe and video, and we're gonna get started. So to start things out, I'm going to pat dry these steaks, make sure that all the moisture is off of them and that they've come to room temperature and are as dry as we can before I put the seasoning on there. Okay, now I'm out here on the deck with my Weber Smoky Mountain 22-inch bullet smoker is what I'm going to be using for this cook today. I have lump charcoal with some hickory wood ready to go here in the bottom. And neat trick that I saw is if you have a gas grill with a side burner, it's a great way to get your chimney going and get that wood fired up and charcoal hot without having to deal with all of the lighters and all the other stuff that you have to mess around with. So that's how I do it. All right, now that those coals are good and hot, they're ready to go into the pit. So very carefully, I'm gonna take them over here and dump them right in on top of the other coals and hickory wood. Now we're going to get that covered up with the smoker and let that start to get up to temp. All right, meanwhile, back in the kitchen, put together a very basic beef rub to put on the chuck roast. It's about a 1/4 cup of kosher salt, coarse black pepper, about 2 tablespoons of garlic and onion powder, a tablespoon of paprika, a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a teaspoon of oregano, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Now, being that my wife and kids are away visiting my in-laws this weekend, and I'm here staying back to work, I am going to use hot sauce as a binder because I love spicy food and I'm the only one here, so no one's going to complain about it being too spicy. So I'm going to put a few drops of that on each side, and we're gonna go ahead and rub that in as a binder for our beef rub. And we're gonna get that on the other side as well. Then we're going to put our combined beef rub all over these, get them thoroughly sprinkled, and then they're ready to go on the fire pit. Okay, I have the rub spread over both sides of the beef and patted it in, and we're gonna get these out to the smoker. All right, we're ready to go on. It's a pretty hot day here, so I didn't turn the vents open too much on the smoker because the temperature's already climbed pretty quick. So here they go. All right, space them out so there's good airflow around them. And I'm gonna get a meat probe, get those in there so we can keep track of their internal temperature, because when they hit about 165, 170, we're gonna wrap them with some local beer and onions and braise them the rest of the way to make some delicious pulled beef sandwiches. So this is gonna be great. Okay, so I have one probe at the grate level on the smoker, because even though the smoker has a thermometer, it's up at the top, and that's usually a different temperature than down at the cooking grate. Usually there's a pretty significant difference there, so you want to make sure you're measuring it at the same height as the cooking surface, and I have one that is in one of the thicker pieces of the meat, so that we're making sure that we're getting both the ambient temperature and the meat temperature as well internal. Okay, this beef is smelling awesome out here. It's almost ready to wrap. I'm going to check it real quick here. Obviously, you don't want to open it a whole lot while we are smoking, because the more you open it, the less it's cooking. But here we go. Color's looking like what we want it to be. Meanwhile, inside the house, I've sliced an onion and spread it out over a couple of tinfoil pans that I'm going to be putting the beef on. Throwing some beer in there, and then covering that all up with tinfoil and putting it back on the smoker until we reach a temperature of around 205 internal. So here's the onions. And now that I smelled that, I'm getting real hungry and can't wait to eat this. All right, we've reached an internal temperature of 155. Being that these are some smaller cuts of meat versus a brisket or a pulled pork, we're gonna go ahead and wrap them at this point. The color is where it needs to be, the tenderness is where it needs to be. So part of smoking meat or barbecuing is being able to adapt, and sorry, I'm getting smoked out here. As temperatures change and cuts of meat and size of cuts of meat changes, you gotta work with those, sometimes work with those numbers a little bit. All right, so we've got our onions in the bottom of our pans. Putting our meat. I've got a local beer here, General Braddock's from Braddock, Pennsylvania. And I'm gonna pour half of this into both. And we're gonna use this to braise our beef. Now, typically, you want to only put hot liquid in or warm liquid in with a braise, because you don't want to have that affect the temperature of the meat. But warm beer is not very good, so I'm going with just cool beer here. Okay, we're wrapping this up. Throw these back onto the smoker here. It's hard to do this with one hand. Our videography budget's not very high this year, so we're working with what we got here. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna let them do their thing and continue to cook and braise in that delicious onion and beer environment we've created, and check back in a little bit. All right, moment of truth time here, everybody. So we've got some Mancini's bread, which is a great local Pittsburgh bakery that everyone loves. If you ever heard of Primanti's sandwiches, I'm pretty sure they use Mancini's bread for the famous sandwiches from Pittsburgh with the French fries and coleslaw and everything on them. That is not what we're making here tonight, but shout out to Primanti's because they're awesome. So I've take the Mancini's bread, I've spread some butter and garlic salt on them, and I've got a griddle going here at about 350 degrees. Obviously, you can use a grill pan or griddle, whatever you have available to you. And I've been letting the beef rest for a while, and as you can see by that steam and the fact that it's just falling apart in here, we are ready to make these sandwiches. All right, I've piled up a whole bunch of this delicious beef, got the pepper jack cheese on the Texas toast. I took some of those onions that we had put in with the beer to braise all this. And right now I have them on the griddle, and we're going to combine this and make this into that delicious sandwich that we talked about. And we're gonna let that grill up, and I'm gonna eat it. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, I got the sandwich off the griddle, and it is golden brown and smells amazing. So we're gonna give it a try. That's good. A little bit of kick, but not too much. The onions and the cheese and the smoked beef all come together great. I think you should give this recipe a try.